there are 54 job opportunities across the world. Out of the 54, one of them is the house managers. Why can't we have a conversation along that?
Fair enough.
Taifa Care story.
Okay.
So I really wanted us to speak to Kenyans because they're also listening to us and they're saying, look, this government is just negative. We haven't done something good. Why can't we allow the president even to speak to some of these issues? Because they are directly affecting the people of Kenya.
Okay. There's a pending question as to the term limits. But let's take, fair enough, let's take a look at what the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics said in the last 2 years. For example, you make a case for the growth in increased sugarcane deliveries and higher milk intake by processors in contrast to the last period. The fertilizer subsidy, however, there is no mention of the flagship program frequently touted by your administration's political leadership and as a contributing factor to the lessening of the prices of food in the country. The report makes no mention of it. And
that is why I'm saying, if and when we get such a platform like here, we should speak to Kenyans about those things.
So the point is, on an accountability note, you can't be holding your hand on heart, saying it was a contributory factor, because the indication is that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics does not view the subsidy program of the fertilizer as a major driver of growth.
But it played a role. If, for instance, in my county, let me give you a live example.
I mean, the entire report does not make no mention of the fertilizer subsidy.
Let me give you a living example. I come from a county that does agriculture as one of the mainstay.
Senator, Bomet is just one of the 47 counties.
Yes.
Here I have a report that looks at the wholesale account of the country in terms of the economic growth and gives the government a way forward on how to make economic plans. And in the entire report, it doesn't make any mention of the fertilizer subsidy you have talked about.
Do you want to tell me that the subsidy program on fertilizer has not supported any improvement on that? Would that be your case?
The report, Senator, does not view the subsidy program as a major driver of growth.
I haven't looked at that report, but I want to just tell you, as a practitioner in agriculture, it definitely has done it.
No, there are thousands of farmers. You're not only farmers, Senator.
We were buying it at 7,500 shillings.
Senator, I come from Wajir County. We do nomadic pastoralism, which is part of farming. The point is that you have a report that looks at the housing, you look at sugar production, fair enough to give it to you. Interestingly, this growth was primarily driven by just two products, increase in sugarcane deliveries and higher milk intake by consumers. The point is that even after being dogged by corruption, the fertilizer subsidy program is not even mentioned by the report.
But it has mentioned the others which I've said. You are actually falling trap to the similar conversation I was saying. We are driving a narrative on the very negatives.
Senator,
why do you mention two of the programs that Kenya Kwanza has succeeded in, but concentrate on the fact that this subsidy program could not have done, and which I disagree totally.
Okay.
By the way, I can actually take a bullet for that because I know the consequences that this one has.
Okay, fair.
In our areas.
Point made. Be that as it may, there's the housing aspect I can come to. The data as enumerated a lot of other factors, including the inflation you talked about, the dollar, which is largely as a result of the increment in interest rates in the United States of America, informing the dollar withdrawal from our market. And it's detailed. I just picked on the point that you have mentioned, Senator, to hold you to account and no negativity in that regard, giving credit where it's due and holding you to account because you are a leader and the people watching this broadcast would demand answers from you and me, who is the avenue to them.
Exactly.
So to be fair to you and to be fair to them, it's about accountability, not negativity.
Okay.
Okay. The question now about the term limits, is that practical?
We have a constitution. The Kenyan constitution has provided that a president can only go for 2 terms of 5 years each. It also provides that you can only get into that office via an election. Yesterday, the president said that I have a job to do. The job that the president has is a job that has been given by the people of Kenya during the election of 2022, and he will serve up to 2027. When that time comes, he will place himself on the ballot together with whoever other Kenyan who will be entitled to go for that position. And the people of Kenya will also make the decision. It is not me as a politician to make the decision. it is the people of Kenya that will make, on the basis of what he will have done for them, on the basis of what commitments he will have achieved, on the basis of his current term. It doesn't guarantee one. It is the people of Kenya that will make that choice. Number two, I don't believe that the president is interested in amending that constitution to give him an unlimited term. I do not, and I haven't heard him as a legislator. I am not, in my capacity as one of the many legislators, I wouldn't support an amendment to the constitution to extend the term limit.
Yeah.
We had before our committee a law that came into place, where in the course of NADCO report, NADCO had recommended an extension of term limit of a senator, the office I hold, to 7 years. We had public participation. Kenyans rejected in totality any extension, even by a day, of a term limit of a senator from 5 to another year. Okay. And we totally rejected as a committee that report. Similarly, this is the same constitution that we will defend.
Okay. So, and that was before the your committee by the private sponsored bill, Senator Samson Cherargei.
This was actually,
and the email nearly crashed.
Yes, and this was actually a private member's bill, and Kenyans said no. The most unfortunate thing, and thank you for even reminding me about that, the most unfortunate thing is where Kenyans don't understand that a private member can sponsor a bill. That is his decision. What we even had to do is to tell Kenyans that this was not a government bill, this was not a committee bill, this was not a Senate bill, this was a private member's bill that actually collapsed on the strength of the effort of the committee and the people who participated in the public participation process.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Wandeto.
Yeah, I think the discussion on extension of a term limits is sad, it's unconstitutional, and I think the three lawmakers who in the last few weeks have been insinuating or suggesting a possibility of 24 years, possibility of, I don't know, Prime Minister after the 10 years, are all totally out of order, and they should be told as much. The good thing is that yesterday the President came out clean and said he is not interested. So I would like, maybe we should let the matter rest at that. But however, what is sad is when you see that these suggestions sometimes are made in a meeting where His Excellency is there. So it would be best that he calls these troops to order in that exact meeting, because as Kenyans we bequeathed ourselves a new constitution of 2010, and in our wisdom and the wisdom of the drafters of the constitution, they thought that 10 years for a president is enough, 10 years for a governor is enough, and it is indeed enough to be able to turn around this country. Mwai Kibaki did it in 5 years because his first term was pretty difficult, and so it is possible to turn around the country without necessarily having to extend the term of the president.
Yeah, and Prof.
Yes.
Of course, any move to alter the term limits subject to getting the consent or the note from the people, but is the language of the politicians, given that this is not the first time, healthy in our democratic setup?
The language is absolutely abhorrent. It is something that a leader should not talk about. What is this man's name? The one who talked about 24 years.
William Kamket.
He's forgetting that Moi ruled prior to the 2010 constitution, where anything went, anything would go, anything would be accepted. So to take us back to that era is really saying we don't want to make progress, we don't want to develop into a mature democracy. Let them take this question to two places. One, Parliament. Let Parliament discuss it. Let it be introduced in Parliament, whether by a private member or whoever. Let's discuss it. Then let the people make a decision. But there was a reason why the framers of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 talked about 10 years. You know, power is a very interesting thing. It can corrupt those who hold power. And if you give somebody power for 10, 15, 20 years, I can tell you he or she will be mad with power. And he will do the kinds of things that the Sunnis of this world are now suggesting should be done. Kill social media people within 3 days and so on and so forth. Because you get drunk with power. And the Constitution recognizes that and therefore wants to moderate this possible problem. So I think it is really unfortunate. And I think they either go to Parliament and eventually to the people, or just stop talking about extension of the term of president.
Is it a classical case of politicians reaching the saturation stage and speaking willy-nilly about the consequence, without the consequence?
Yeah, I think there are politicians who are unsure about themselves. I think there are politicians who are, what is the word? They fear that they might not be elected. And therefore they want a system that can allow rigging elections and so on. Because when you say that even if you don't get enough votes, we will add them, what are you saying? You are saying you are ready to rig the elections. Indeed, you may be suggesting that past elections have been rigged. That is my problem with this kind of statement.
Okay.